bones in the afternoon to pull you out of a bit of a spot there. David, I hope you're back with me. I can see you nice and clearly. Give me a little hello and let's check the levels on this.
How are you doing? Sorry about that.
Oh, that sounds so much better. So much better. I didn't want anybody to miss any of this. So you had started to chat a little bit there about, how people don't see what goes on behind all of the training that's involved, the personal sacrifice, the professional sacrifice, everything that goes on. Tell me a little bit what prompted you to write this book, because I know you had thought about it for a long time and declined a few times. And then finally, timing was right for you. What brought you to the fruition? Think, yeah, I'm going to do it now?
Yeah, there was a number of things. I retired from the sport 13 years ago, and I was asked at that time to do a book, and I turned it down. It wasn't right. I probably hadn't come to terms with my own career. And then I think kind of more recently, just where athletics is in people's minds here in Ireland and the profile, and I suppose my role on the track side, interviewing athletes, it gave me a new perspective of what the sport was all about. And I think that kind of really was a bit of a catalyst for me, maybe to kind of look back at my own career and think, maybe now's the time to kind of share it all. And when the opportunity came around, like I said a little bit earlier, I was going to go all in and really give people an insight into how the sport operates.
Yeah, and as you say there, I'm going from my own experience of watching Olympics and that, and we have no idea really and truly when it comes down to it what goes on. And I think maybe social media and stuff has played a huge part in this, that we have so much access to everybody now. So when it comes to athletes, team players, whatever, we know everything from what they are wearing on their feet to what is in their fridge. Do you know what I mean? So we kind of forget the elitism that comes with being where you are at this place and time and everything that brought you to that exact minute. Would that be a fair description?
Absolutely. Like I think social media has a role in it. It's enabled kind of some of our athletes to really show what they're all about and give an insight into what life is like. But at the same time, an awful lot goes on where so much work goes into it. The daily grind, you're working off schedules, routines, always looking for that goal, always trying to find, in my case, that extra 0.1 of a second, because that could be the difference between getting a medal or even qualifying for a championship. So yeah, the sacrifices, the choices that you make, but you're doing it because you want to be the best that you can be. And the hard thing about athletics is it's a very cutthroat sport. You have to be performing every time you set foot on the track in order to make a living from the sport, to have a bit of longevity and have a career in it.
Yeah, and I mean, as you say, numbers are huge. You must have been going to sleep at night and numbers just flying through your head and dissecting everything and micromanaging every single part of that. It must have been very hard to turn off from that. I mean, it was part of your DNA and training for so many years.
100%. I'm kind of giggling away because, so many times you put a day's graft in and you hop into bed and you're over-analysing what could I have done a little bit better, where could I find that 0.1, 0.2, because like I said, that's the biggest thing you want, is trying to improve. And particularly, I went through a couple of years of trying to break 45 seconds for 400 meters, and back then, if I could get under that, I'd be classed as a world-class 400-meter runner. So every time in the kitchen, rest, recovery, it all revolved around trying to be the best that I could be and get a little bit quicker.
And also, comparison is a huge part of this sport, comparing yourself to your contemporaries. And, we all deem ourselves as experts in somebody else's life, no matter what their walk of life is. And we put ourselves in their shoes, but we're not in their shoes. We can never possibly be, because we don't understand everything that took them to that place. So injury, unfortunately, played a huge part in the decisions that you had to make. Like, obviously, mind over matter and psychology is massive, but when your body just says, no more.
Yeah, look, unfortunately, I was lucky in my early kind of career that, I was getting faster, I was improving, and my body was kind of playing ball with me. And it was only kind of later on did the body just decide, what, enough's enough. And unfortunately for me, I tore my soleus muscle. I didn't even know I had a soleus. And then the kind of things began to unravel a little bit, because there's trust. You have to trust your body. And particularly for my event, you really are pushing the body to the limit and you're always on that edge. And unfortunately, it kind of had subsequent injuries after that, particularly kind of later on in my career. And it was just really hard to keep going. You try and be as resilient as you can, but unfortunately, when the body doesn't play ball, it kind of leaves you questioning things. You're trying to kind of live off the sport, and when you're not running, you're not making any money. And I think you mentioned comparison there as well. And you used to like, and it's probably worse now through social media and through like the GPS trackers and all these sort of things that a lot of sports people are wearing. But even back then, it was the kind of, I suppose, the beginning of social media, and you would see what some of your training partners are definitely doing, but also the people you're competing against, and that can kind of get into your head a little bit. And then the kind of the mind games happen. So I think nowadays it's fantastic that sports psychology is playing a pivotal role in performance. But back then, 20 years ago, it didn't really exist. So you're trying to figure it out yourself. And that's why, as much as it's an individual sport, it was very important that I had a good coach and good training environment to be in, because those are the people that I would have relied on an awful lot.
Do you feel, saying what you've just said about psychology 20 years ago not being what it is now, do you feel that, say, for example, if you were now at that stage that you were at 20 years ago with all of the resources, do you feel it would have been different for you, like physically and mentally?
I think probably an element of it. I think I probably would have worked with a sports psych probably earlier in my career, and maybe, dealt with the nerves, the anxieties, the doubts, everything that comes with a performance, but also dealing with injury and the setbacks. Arguably I could have been a little bit more equipped to kind of face the down times in my career that maybe would have maybe bounced back a little bit quicker. But at the same time, like, in my own head, I was very passionate. I was a perfectionist, and you make the best decision you can at those moments. And for me, like, it was all in. Like, that's the way I approached it. But I definitely think, like, when I look at the next generation now, the resources that are available are crucial to performance. And yeah, at sometimes I think, God, it would have been nice to have a little bit of that 20 years ago.
Do you think sometimes when you look back at it that did this really happen to me? Is it almost like a kind of a fever dream?
It is. And even now, like, when I'm going into bookshops and I'm signing a couple of books, I kind of pinch myself and I'm like, God, how did I get here? But at the same time, it's such a privilege to be close to the sport, to be engaging with the athletes when they come off the track. And it gives me a different perspective. Like, I can look at a performance now and see what it does to people in the stands, family, friends. And that's really important. And also gives me a sense of pride that I gave that opportunity to my parents.
Yeah, and the other side of that too is you've mentioned that and touched on family and friends. And speaking about your own family, your wife and your children, as much as your dream is your dream, real life comes into this also. And you have to be, if you put yourself in the environment that you take on a relationship and become a father, you have to be passionate to your own family and understand that, yeah, your dream is your dream, but you still have a responsibility.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's something that I quickly kind of realized, particularly when Oscar, our first child, was born, who's now 9. I kind of realized very quickly that, I can't pour from an empty cup. But if I want to be the best kind of husband, the best father that I can, I need to look after myself. And that was probably the catalyst for me to ask for a little bit of help and a little bit of advice post-career, with something that, I suppose, being male, I was very afraid to do for the fear of being judged. And to be brutally honest, like, I didn't really deal with retirement that well. I struggled with my identity as to who was I now, what was I good at, what's my purpose, what's my goal. So very much so, kind of like, family was the catalyst for change and asking for that help and advice.
So what is life like for David Gillick now, today? Say today, tomorrow, and the next day.
Yeah, like, do you know what it is? Like, I kind of panicked when I first retired and I took the first job that came my way, because I thought it was all about money. I thought if I have more money, I'll be content and I'll be happy. And I quickly realized, that's not what it's all about. It's trying to find that fulfillment, things that you enjoy doing. And I've been blessed over the last couple of years, like, to be still associated with the sport, which is going through a really, really positive time in terms of the results, and to be kind of trackside and have that role, engaging with the athletes. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like, I feel very present. I feel very lucky and very grateful for the journey that I've been on. And, right now, I have a certain degree of flexibility to be around my kids. We've 3 kids. Oscar's 9, Olivia is 7, and Louis 4. To spend time with them, to give something back to the sport. I help coach locally. And I do a lot of work around kind of mental health in the corporate world, and just sharing my story, which will hope resonate with other people who might be going through a difficult time. And particularly on the male side, never been afraid to ask for help and advice. So every week, every day, every month is a little bit different, but you know what? It keeps me on my toes, and it's I'm enjoying where life is at right now.
That's so good to hear, because it's, as you said, it's very important for our men. Our men go through a terrible time, especially our young men. And to have somebody in the spotlight who is highlighting all of the setbacks, and you have now reached a place of calm and happiness and are a family man. You know what, David? I'm very, very conscious of the time, and I am so sorry that the connection was unclear
No,
to
it's my
start
fault.
with.
My fault.
Not at all.
Apologies.
These things happen. But what I'm going to say, the race, the inside track on the ruthless world of elite athletics, and it is exactly that. Because part of this, I was like, oh man, alive! How do you get up in the morning and face this all again? It's hard. It takes a very special person, and you certainly are that. And I'm going to thank you for your time. I've had a little look around your house now. I'm following you around there. Your fridge looks good.
I know. I need to sort the network out here.
Nice one. Thank you so much for joining us here at Highland Radio. David Gillick, you have been an absolute joy, and we wish you well. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the support.
Bye-bye now.